Welcome to Making My Game with Words Here. I'm still doing that same thing. I think I got it figured out. The way I was doing it before, I actually had the script wrong. For one thing, I had to flip around how it works. The way it was working, not that script actually. Where did I put it? This script was backwards because the way it was working. Especially in this specific example, where this guy's at 135, this guy's at 45, this would end up being 90, the way it was before. And that would mean that this direction is positive, but normally this direction is positive. So that actually had everything flipped around. That was screwing me up. So now I've got everything backwards again, so now this ends up being 270, I believe is what it is. Although I probably remember that wrong. When this guy's at 135. And what I can do is I can say, if the number that you end up with is less than or equal to the 0 plus the view cone, or the number you end up with is greater than or equal to 360 minus the view cone. Or that's kind of that's the key here, because what happens is if it's within this area and it ends up over here, then it should work out. Now the problem becomes, once again, this thing over here, this right here. I believe that would be a problem, and I'll have to do some calculations really quick to figure out whether that is in fact a problem, but I might have this sussed out to some extent. So I can go. I could go ahead and add that in. The way this is going to work, it's actually the way it originally. Well, the way my first revision of this was actually, I think, correct. Where I actually just do the direction, and then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be saying minus disguise. It's got to be if n is less than or equal to the view cone. Or n is greater than or equal to 360 minus the view cone. That's the theory, and I'm going to have to do a couple more calculations, in air quotes, and as in, simple addition and subtraction that I for some reason need a calculator for. And help for, apparently, because that must have been Freudian, because I'm just that dumb. I wouldn't be surprised if I needed help with this thing. Let's see. The question is if his direction is someplace over here, and the other guy is over here someplace. Will that still work? And I think the answer is no. See, what we're looking at is, let's say that this guy's at 1. He's at 1 degrees, and the bad guy is over here at 359 will work. What we'll end up doing is taking what it normally does is, in my code, it does if the direction 2 currently facing is less than the direction 2 face, it'll subtract out direction facing from the direction 2 face, or the direction currently face. The direction 2 face. The direction currently facing from the direction 2 face. So what we end up with is 359 minus 1, 358. Not very difficult math, but I'm not sure if that's going to work out. It is bigger. Well, actually, that might work, because this guy would be if 1 became 0. Then our thing would be then this end would be 360 minus or 360 minus the view cone, and this would be this would indeed be greater than equal. It might actually work. What I've been meaning to do is change the debug room that I'm starting with so that it only has like 2 characters in it, not that, so that I can more easily test this sort of thing. let's see if we can get that to work. Let's add that into here. I've actually not... wrong guy. Where is he? There you are. Alright, let's add that in. I've commented this out because I hadn't finished it, and it was making it so I couldn't actually run the script, the game, to actually be able to test it. So if in view, and we're the arguments for this are actually the team ID of this character, so his team ID, and the specific ID within the team, which I think he has. I don't remember what I called it though. Team ID is, oh, geez, I called it my team for his team and team ID for his ID within the team. Okay, so that's actually completely wrong what I was doing before. Shit. Ah. Okay. So instead, let's see. What I was doing before, I was looking at team ID as if it was the ID of what team he was on. It's my team is the correct variable, and that's what I meant here. So my team, comma, team ID, his position within the team, and the I, which is the team that I'm looking at, that's the other character's team. The other character's position within that team. Actually, oh, geez, yeah, I and then J, is that what that is? So if this guy is in view of this guy, then that'll return true. And we'll say, we'll just, turn on a variable, I guess. Well, I don't know what we would do. What we're actually looking for is when he's not in the view, we're doing a sneak check, aren't we? To see if he can be, whether or not he's visible. Which kind of begs the question, how would I keep track of this for each individual characters? What I guess I would have to do is I would have to actually make this a separate script, this whole thing, and then run it every time somebody tries to attack them. Might actually have to run the other way around, so that the person attacking actually simply checks, which makes the most sense. When else would it actually matter? The only time that would matter otherwise is when enemies. The only other times it matters is if, for one thing, enemies will have to. So this would actually, I would have to run this only when it's not this actual specific, piece of code where it's actually running through everyone. It would have to actually only run that as long as it's not an enemy. In which case, yeah, because what's going to, this could be for whether or not the item in view, if you sense past their sneaky abilities, then then they'll become visible, and otherwise they won't be. That way enemies can sneak up on you. Not that they'll be that smart, I don't think. It'll mostly just be if you're distracted, I suppose. The real problem, I suppose, is whether or not enemies, like if they walk out of view, do they become invisible again immediately until they fail their sneak check, or as long as they fail their sneak check? I think that would make the most sense, so that, let's look at our little graphic here. Let's ignore all that bit, and probably all these numbers, and all this other random crap. But let's say that we've got like a bad guy, and he's, and your guy's sitting still. Let's say you told him to wait over here. And we've got this one bad guy, and he walks through the view range. What it might do is, when it might be and this might actually be a racial trait or something, but like there might be a range of, hearing, that might extend past 2 or 2, and if you're within that range, then you're actually doing the sneaking check. And perhaps it's when you cross into that range, but are without the visual range of the character, then you might do that check once. I'd rather not have a check be constantly going on, because that's always, well, that's not a good idea. no matter what. I mean, especially if you have a lot of them, that'll start to bog things down a bit. So instead, it could do that once when somebody crosses into, or if they spawn there for whatever reason, they can do the check then, but it might have to actually keep some sort of track. The game could do it in order to keep it from out of the hands of, if I don't want each character to also have that list of all the team, every single solitary character, just to be able to keep track of this. So it might put it into the game to say some sort of cross-reference for who knows where who is, which would only really work for 2 teams, I think. Well, and then I could just have different ones for each team. It's kind of something to think about. In any case, at the time, he'll do the check, and well, I guess really only matters for like I said before, right? I remember I was just saying that this only really matters for enemies against your characters, as far as the constant check or the check when reaching into it for just visual, for being able to actually visualize them. What I could do is I could say it goes through. Well, this would have to be a constant check even then, though. It would have to say if it could be a collision though, but if it reaches if it reaches the boundary of hearing for that character and is outside of the visual range, then it will do the sneak check right then, and if they fail it, they'll it'll do the sneak check, or possibly I guess it would be a sense check for him against his sneak is probably wouldn't be best, but he'll do the sense check when somebody walks in, and then he'll do if he succeeds, this character, this enemy, would normally be invisible as long as it's outside of all the range, the visual range of all your characters. So it would become visible at that point, possibly half visible, something like that. In any case, you'd then be alerted to its presence and can attack it. Otherwise, when they leave the visual range, I could do the check again. I could also do the check anytime they leave the. I could also turn them back off when they leave the hearing range and are also outside of visual range. And if they re-enter it, they have to do the check again. All of this is, again, I always run into these sorts of things where I know that the only real way to know whether or not it's going to work is to actually get it working in the game and test out how it plays. And I can't even really do that. What I do know is the only other time it matters is if an enemy or a character is doing the attacking. And what I can do is I can make it so that I have a script to test this really quick and see if, and it doesn't even have to do the for loop or anything, it just says if my guy is in view of the guy he's attacking, then it would I might have to do this differently than the way I'm doing it then, because he doesn't actually know. Well, he can get that information from the target. Yeah. So if he's trying to attack him, if he goes to attack, then he'll test to see if he's sneaking, if he's unseen, and if he is, then he'll get the bonus damage. Of course, he'll become seen, I suppose. Or he might have to do a sneak check at a penalty, perhaps, when he attacks, to see if he can keep unnoticed in spite of having attacked. A couple of different options there as well. For this, I know that I need to move this part into a different place. I need to take. So here's where this guy's an enemy, and he's doing all the stuff to figure out who to attack right here. Which is this is the simple version of that. I don't know if I did this in a video, if I actually looked at this, but what it does is, oh yeah, because this is before I even started. I might not have talked about this. I wanted to eventually, essentially check for the biggest threat, and say whoever's doing the most average damage. But what it does right now is it actually just checks for who's closest, which is fine for just these debugging purposes, but it won't be very smart at when it's like that. Let's see. Okay, so I got that in there, and it doesn't actually do anything yet, but it's there. I could actually do these tests in debug. I could disable attacking and make it so it's like just one guy, you know, so I can say, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pause for a second, do this. Okay, assuming we don't get some weird error, I should now have only one guy and one other guy. Well, one of my guys and one of their guys, and I forgot to actually do something. I forgot to switch it to debug mode. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a thing in here. It's going to say in view game dot. Well, actually, what it ought to be is I know what his is. He's 0. He's actually 0, 1, and the other guy is 1, 1. I actually know that. So right now he's not in view. Let's make sure that when I attack him, he becomes in view. Okay. I want you to go over here. Not in view. Oh, he switched. Yeah. Oh, it seems to work. Let's try going over here. Right now he's not in view, and then, ooh, that's odd. This might be due to my changing that other script. Oh! I know why it is. It's because it paused because he would have turned to look to him, I think, but I paused it. It paused automatically because of the yeah, he didn't have orders anymore. Duh. I forgot about that. So let's have him target him. So he turns around, he switches, and as he turns around this way, it switches back. Seems to work so far. Or in fact, I've whoop, whoop, whoop. No, I'm gonna switch it. No, go over here. It's kind of hard to get him to turn. Come over here. And go over here. No, go over here. Okay. Turn to look at him. I might draw it on so I can actually, so I can see that, you know, how that's working. Draw line. Oops, I pressed the wrong button again, right after I started it too, so now I have to sit here and watch it not work. Well, it works, but you can't tell because I can't, how do you get to debug mode to be able to actually see what I'm doing? In view 0, 1, 1, 1. Not getting anything odd, like as long as I keep him facing away, he's staying at 0, which is pretty good. And then when he turns around, I wish I might have the. Actually, I should have a. I should be. I usually keep a variable called. Let's see, where is it in here? Well, right now it's just pause. But what I usually do is I have a variable called, like, you know, time slow or something, and I can actually affect the speed of events so that I can actually see what's going on better. Where it actually just multiplies it by everything that, you know, happens. As far as timing goes, I should actually add one in really quick. So now I should be able to make the game run at effectively half speed. Oh, and then I immediately got a problem. I forgot. Well, that was exciting, wasn't it? Okay, trying again. This time without the dumb error. Okay. Let's see, in view 0, 1, 1, 1. I'm coming up on 20 minutes, but the last video actually ended up at 30. Might not care. Alright, everything's going at half speed. Look at that. That guy's slightly faster, I swear. Oh, it's probably because I used, he's actually, haha, I know what that is. I might actually, what I can do is, let's re-enter this, switch it around. So we're looking at team 1 over here, so this is actually what he can see, since he's the one who's moving so slow anyway. these two. Yeah, this isn't working. What I did was in here. I might as well. Fix it. I don't know where it is though. Okay, here's in. Let's find the other one that I missed on. Oh, there it is. Times. There we go. Fixed. Okay, one more try. This should be it. Wouldn't it be nice if it were like funny or something? Because then this would not be as awkward, I don't think. I could actually say things, you know? Okay, now everything's going at half speed. Let's see if we can get this guy. Alright, so he's out of range, out of range, out of range, out of range. Cool, okay, he just passed over it. It was too fast. Try to get him to turn really fast to look at him. Come on. Yeah. Because he keeps wanting to go around. For a second there, he almost did it. Alright, now let's see. Whoop. Yeah, it looked about right. Whoop. 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 Okay, it's working, I think. Alright, let's try. Whoop. 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 Okay, well, yeah. This appears to be working. I think it's working. I'm pretty sure it's working. It's kind of hard to tell if we're absolutely certain with something like that. I mean, no matter how much I slow it down, it might just be barely out of, you know. And part of the problem is it's the center, not like the actual edge. I could factor in the size of the character you're trying to look at as well, but that might be an idea. I don't know. I really have no idea. But what would be right for this? It really depends. You know, it's going to be something I'm going to play test. For now, we'll leave it the way it is. We'll have to add in making it. You know, we'll have to actually make it. Work. I'll actually make it so that it works. It's to do that. That'd be nice. Instead of not. Because right now what it does is absolutely nothing. So we'll make those sneak checks actually happen. Well, for one thing, we know that it happens when they attack. Right now they don't actually do any damage. I have a bunch of different options for how that should work. It could be an automatic crit. That seems kind of silly. I mean, you're already going to crit. It could be at X2, like a bonus on top of the crit. Or it could be double, like it could be like attacking twice, you know, in one hit. Or it could just be a bunch of extra damage, you know, based on something like perhaps like a, you know, the crit damage of a weapon could be a stat for the weapon. I have no idea. Yeah, I'm not even going to worry about it for now. For now, I'm just going to put things back the way they were, so that I don't have just the one character on my side and just the one character on theirs. And then we're going to I don't know what we're going to work on really. Let's go back to you. Let's see. Oh, bravery, that doesn't really matter. You have the health. Constitution has to do with leveling, really, as well as perhaps, you know, some other things, but not really important. Sense, strength, range. I could put ranged weaponry in, but I guess I'd have to start working on the groundwork for some sort of inventory system. We'll have to have equipment slots for your characters, which is quite an important thing, I think. I could start adding those in. This is pretty simple, though. I mean, it's just adding in the variables for it. The question is how the real question is how the actual items will work. They'll probably have a ID for the item, and then we'll have a probably a list, you know, like or well, just a big giant list for, like, you know, all the stats for each item, and all that. I could do it a few different ways. The thing with GameMaker is I could have an object for weapon, just called weapon. And it could have all the stats in there, and then I could make instances of that object. The problem is the way GameMaker works, that's not a very good idea. Now, I don't know how it stores objects in the memory, if it's anything like, say, an object in say, C#. I have no idea. It might not work the same way at all. It might be constantly doing collision checks for something that doesn't. I mean, I suppose if it's not solid, it's not. But you never know what it's doing. Really, I guess. So if I had, say, thousands of persistent objects, each an instance of, like this is just all these different items you've just so happened to come across in this game. If I had all these instances of these objects running around, I don't know if that would actually start to bog things down or affect the, could create some sort of, well, it could create memory issues at the very least. It depends on how it actually keeps track of that sort of thing, how it stores it. If it expects it to be, an important thing in the game, and when it's really just a place to store information. And even then, it would have to keep the ID of each one. It's essentially the same thing as keeping a bunch of lists for all the stats for each item, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing. And then I'll give each item its individual ID as just 0 to however many items there end up being. But we can say, I don't know if I want to call it like a name like that, or if I want to make it like equip, 0, like that. It might be simpler in the end, actually, if I do go ahead and just make it a name, like right hand. So this is like this is the weapon or object, whatever that is in your right hand. And I could say, for now, what I could say is 0 is nothing, which would make sense. That's probably what that would be. Although then again, it would actually make more sense for it to be -1, since lists ought to start at 0. So, and the ID of the first item in the game would be 0. Although I could make it so that no, yeah, it would be 0. And that would be -1 would actually then be, there's nothing in that hand. And I could do a test. I could say, I could say -1 is so they're punching each other right now is what they're doing, and I could actually test in the code for, when they go to attack, I could say whether or not, if it's -1, then they're going to do, their base damage. I guess it would be strength. Plus, I don't know, whatever their damage low, damage high is what it does right now. Which is just, an arbitrary number I put in there. And then I could make it so that, if it's, but I could say that item 0, I could say is I don't know, infinite throwing knives, basically, and I could, so if you have that, then it's a ranged weapon. I could increase the range of the character. Right now I actually have range, I guess reach is what this is. I called it RCH, rich. I don't know if that was because of, wasn't, oh well. In any case, I called it rich, and reach is just the base, I guess, reach of your character with fists, which is pretty close. But then I could have like in the game, actual object, I could keep all the lists of so below our drag item stats, I suppose it would be. We could say like item 0, we could give the type, I guess we could say, for item 0 is, we could say, I could actually, I could add like a script for adding in items, because there's also going to be like a num items is, 0, I guess, or it might be 1 at this point. Oh, I'm very out of time. So yeah, I might just go ahead and add some of that stuff, so you can see what I've done next time. It'll probably be mostly just a bunch of variables, not really anything exciting.
But until then, I guess I'll work on it.